Welcome back to Nourished Inside Out, the space where growth gets real and self love leads the way. I'm your host, Aneta, and before we dive into today's episode, I want to remind you of something powerful. You are worthy, you are enough, and you don't need to wait for permission to love yourself fully. That's exactly why I wrote my book, Blooming with Self Love, to give you the tools, affirmations, and daily mindset shifts to help you stand in your power and own your story. This book isn't just words on a page, it's a movement. So if you're ready to stop shrinking and start showing up for yourself, grab your copy today with the link in the show notes below, and let's walk this self love journey together.
Let's make this exciting. And I was excited to figure out what else I could do, but it was very lonely to try to figure that out. I was really in a silo with these two little ones and feeling the need to still contribute to the family. I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom. I needed to bring money into the household. And finally saying, I'm going to produce my own life. I'm going to start a business and see if I can be an entrepreneur.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Nourished Inside Out. Today I'm here with Shannon Russell. She is a career transition and business coach, an exit strategy expert, and CEO of Second Act Success Coaching. Shannon has spent over 16 years as a television producer before she decided to stop producing shows for others and start producing her own life. Shannon has pivoted her career from the entertainment industry to entrepreneurship, and as she empowers women to leave unfulfilling careers and build joyful, purpose driven businesses that allows them to live their best lives in their second act. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your background as a TV producer and how you created that career for yourself?
Yeah, I think I manifested it from a very young age. It's the only thing I ever wanted to do since I was a really little girl. And I went to school for TV and film. And then I had a bunch of internships. And then I ended up working at MTV in New York City. And that was an internship that led to my first job in the industry. And then I worked there and then moved to the West Coast and just kept on going for different production companies and studios. And then came back and ended my career in Manhattan once again.
Wow. So how long was that career for you in TV production?
That was 16 years. And then at that time, I had a 3-year-old and a baby on the way.
So what was it like for you to juggle your life with your personal life, with your TV production life? Because that's such a demanding career as well.
It is. It's really long hours, not a lot of predictability. So there were years where I would miss friends' weddings and big life events because I was away traveling or just not able to get that time off. It was always a balance, but it was great when I was single and didn't have the kids. But when I had my first son, we were in Los Angeles, and that's when I kind of was looking at the hours compared to, well, who's going to watch the baby? And my husband was in the industry as well. And so there was always that, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So we moved to be closer to my family on the East Coast and continue to work in the industry in Manhattan. But even that was just so stressful trying to get home. I was 90 minutes outside of the city and taking public transportation and trying to get to him. And so it was a lot, and it was just weighing on me. So when I was pregnant with my little one, I just had this epiphany moment of, okay, I think something needs to change and I have to try something new so that I can be a present mom.
What was that transition like? Because I think a lot of times when we are growing up or we're in our early 20s, we get told to find a career that we want to do for the rest of our lives. But something I've noticed is that it's okay to change your career as many times as you need to. It's okay to reroute. And you coming from such a demanding career and a career that most people would dream about, what was that transition like?
Yeah. And I'm hoping that the narrative is changing and that we're realizing that you can change and reroute, like you said. But for me, it was hard because everyone I knew, friends, my husband, were in the industry. So they really looked at me at like, why? Why would you leave this? You've worked so hard. And I just did a lot of mindset work and realized, you know what? I've accomplished what I set out to accomplish. And I've done this job for 16 years and I'm proud of myself. But now it's time to figure out what else I can do and kind of challenge myself. And so I kind of switched my thinking and started looking at it like, okay, let's celebrate what I did. And now let's see what else. Let's make this exciting. And I was excited to figure out what else I could do, but it was very lonely to try to figure that out. I was really in a silo with these two little ones and feeling the need to still contribute to the family. I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom. I needed to bring money into the household. It was really me trying a couple different things that didn't fit and then finally saying, I'm going to produce my own life. I'm going to start a business and see if I can be an entrepreneur.
That's super cool. You mentioned that you and your husband were working in the same industry. Is he still working in the TV production industry?
Yes, he is. And it's changed so much over the years. So now he works from home on the East Coast, but works for a company on the West Coast. And he just travels
Mm.
for his live events and his live shows.
That's super nice to create that balance. Would you say that since COVID that has shifted?
Yeah, and it was from COVID for sure because they just realized that people kind of like went to their families or went where they wanted to during that time. And it's been a blessing for us because he's got such more of a quality of life, I would say. He can be here to pick up the kids from school and go to the gym in the morning, and he's not spending so long traveling and commuting. And then he just goes away and does his live shows that are a few times a year that he works on, and then he comes home. So, yes, it's helped us, but there's still so many layoffs going on in the entertainment industry and lots of changes. So, he's lucky where he is, and I'm very fortunate that I got out when I did.
Everything happens for a reason. I saw this quote the other day and it said, just because you're sad after making the right decision doesn't mean it wasn't the right decision. And I think there's a time and place for everything that whether it's career, friendships, relationships, or something in your personal life, there's a time and place for it all. So if something ends, just know that something better is going to come. How do you help women make the change to change careers to find a more fulfilling career?
Yeah, it's really personalized to each person. And what I did is I opened a franchise business. That was my first business. So I really learned the basics of growing a business. And then I realized after a few years that there's other women out there that want to do what I did and make that change, but they just don't know how, or they feel often times that they're going to almost ruin their family life and they're going to cause all this chaos. And so my focus is to work one on one with women and say, okay, we don't have to cause this chaos and disrupt your life and your household. We can do it really strategically and figure out how to go from where you are to where you want to be in a really smart, safe way where they feel confident and it leads to success rather than just feeling stuck and leaping into something and having it not be right. So we just do a lot of that inner work and really examining their skills and experience because we learn so much from every role that we have. And a lot of times we'll discredit that, don't you think? And we'll just think, oh, everyone can do that. And by really sitting and looking and going, wow, I really have done a lot. And this is how it will transfer to that next act. It gives you that sense of confidence. So I like pulling that out of my clients as well.
I love that you started with a franchise because that's not really common or what you hear about most people. Because when someone starts a business, it's usually their own business or their own brand. Can you explain to us what the advantages and disadvantages are of buying a franchise business?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I had no idea. When you think of franchise, you think of McDonald's or Subway or something big like that. But what I was doing is I had this idea to start a STEM education business because my 3-year-old was like building with Legos. And that was when he got in the zone. And I was like, oh, there's something to this. And the idea of science, technology, engineering, and math, and teaching children how to think kind of creatively. And so I started researching building my own business. And then I found a franchise that did exactly what I wanted. And I said, I wonder what this is about. And I had a bunch of phone calls and meetings. And to me, certain franchises are very much like a business in a box because yes, you invest into this business and you pay royalty fees every month, but you get all of the support. You get the marketing materials. You get, for my instance, we taught children STEM education. So I had all of my curriculum. I had a team at the corporate level that was there to guide me. And then all of the other franchisees, all of the other business owners that became my friends and mentors that we chat all the time and really helped each other grow our businesses. So for me, as someone who had never started a business, that seemed to be the best stepping stone. So I wasn't reinventing the wheel. I was able to kind of grow it and have that support. And now it's really nice because I can help my clients with either or. Like I know franchising very, very well. I actually sold my business last year successfully. And so, to know franchising and then small business growing it on your own, it's nice to know both worlds.
It's a nice cushion because you do get all of the support. It's like you said, it's like a business in a box. But what are like the disadvantages to it? Because I know you mentioned paying royalties every month. Are there any other disadvantages that someone should be aware of if they want to get into a franchise?
There are, and all franchises are different. So you really have to do your due diligence to learn about yours and where they are in the process. So I joined mine when they were relatively new. I think they were about 5 or 7 years into the business. So there was a lot of autonomy. We could kind of do whatever we wanted and run the business within guidelines, but it wasn't a lot of oversight. Where there's other
Mm.
franchises where there's a lot of oversight. Like you can only use this logo and these colors, and you can only offer these services or products. So you want to look and see if you're someone who is a little bit more creative like me. I didn't want all of those rules put on me. So I joined a franchise at the time where I could be creative and go outside of the box. You want to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into, and there's always that startup cost. So different franchises have different investment costs. So you put that investment in to kind of get everything, and then you pay those monthly royalty fees as well. And some businesses also ask you to contribute to a marketing fund so that they can market nationally for everyone who's in the franchise organization. So I think just those kind of restrictions sometimes upset some owners. So you really want to see how much um, autonomy you'll have. And then if there are restrictions, are you okay with everything that they're telling you have to do in the business?
Yeah, those are really valuable tips and things to keep in mind, especially when starting a franchise. What was the transition like for you when you were going from a franchise where you had a business in a box and all of the support to eventually going and opening up your own and starting your own brand?
Yeah, it was completely different, but I felt like I learned so much from growing this successful business within my franchise. 5 years into my franchise, I decided to start my coaching business on the side. So that business was running, I had a team running it, and I was putting all of my focus into my coaching and my clients. And it was that idea of me coming up with my logo and my branding and making my website, and nothing was done for me. So it was me really figuring it out. But I'm that kind of creative type A person that wants a new project every few years. I took it and ran with it. I started my podcast at the same time, and I was getting really into it and wanting to challenge myself in that way. But it was a lot of doing it on your own because I had no one else to ask. It's as a solopreneur, as you know, you're coming up with everything on your own and you don't have that sounding board necessarily to run things by. I just kind of looked at it like, well, I can always change. Like I can change it, I can tweak things. It was a growing process that first 6 months or a year into it. And then I got my flow.
That's nice that you had that structure of what it's like to have a business and to have that outline of a successful business, and then you can take that and make it your own eventually later down the road. That's actually a really great start because I mean, I wouldn't think about that of starting with a franchise and then going into my own. So I think that's a beautiful start. For somebody who is in a career that is unfulfilling to them, but they feel like they should be in that career because of what people expect of them, like family members, friends, society. What advice would you give to that person who wants to step outside of their unfulfilling career and to start building their own career, like their own business, or exploring more passions and hobbies that they enjoy and eventually make it a career?
Mm. I just gave a talk on the same topic this past weekend in Washington, D.C., and it was all about this one life we're given. So if you're thinking about something. If there's been this voice in your head, or you've always thought, oh, I'd like to write a book, or I'd like to, maybe dabble in this or that, why put it off? Because there really will never be a good time. And I've had women come to me and say, well, I'll wait until I have kids and they're out of the house, or I'll wait until retirement, or I'll wait until I save X amount of money. But you're putting off something that you want and you're not guaranteed tomorrow. So
Yeah.
I think it's really when you start thinking of life that way and you start thinking of, at the end of the day, are you going to regret not even trying? And for me, I always say, check all the boxes in life. Like, I want to do all the things and try all the adventures that life has to offer and not have regrets at the end of the day. That's super important to me. It's what I teach my kids. I feel like life is so precious. And so what I would say is, if you are unfulfilled, start exploring what it is that you think you might want to do. And it can be 5 minutes a day. It can be over your lunch break or while you're having your coffee in the morning. But research what that role would look like. And the more you learn about maybe starting that business or venturing into whatever it is that you're pondering, you'll learn more and you'll be able to say, yep, that is exactly what I want to do. Or, you know what, that doesn't sound right for me. And then at least you'll know. But you have to do that research, learn a little bit more about it. Then you can start assessing your skills and experience and start taking those steps to move towards it if you want to. But I think until you do that research, you won't really know what it is. Because you can think opening a bakery sounds great, but when you get into what it really means to run a bakery, it might not be perfect for you. So learn before you leap.
Yeah, that's true. And also learning about yourself, I would like to add to that is learning about what you like and what you don't like. Learn about your strengths and your weaknesses. So you know, like your strengths, you can focus on those areas, but your weaknesses, you can eventually delegate those tasks to other people to help you on the journey. The way that I like to look at entrepreneurship is compare it to solo travel. It starts solo, but it doesn't end solo. And that's the same thing with entrepreneurship. The idea may start with just you and just you believing in it, but eventually you will find the people that are going to want to help you and believe in your vision. So I always say it's okay. Do something that scares the shit out of you
Mhm.
because there's nothing more scary than saying, I wish I tried.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so beautifully said.
Yeah.
Like you said with solo traveling, that's an adventure. You don't know what it's going to be like when you get to your destination, but you want to try and you want to do whatever you can to get you there and experience that experience. And it's kind of like that when you're thinking of launching a business or making any kind of change. You're taking a risk on yourself and you're taking that adventure to plunge ahead, and that helps you grow. It's all about personal growth and learning. And again, like you said, using your skills and your values and really testing yourself. And that's what's exciting, I think. When you start one career, why not take that experience with you into that next one and see what that next destination holds for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Take the leap of faith. I want to encourage people that it's okay to change careers. It's okay to change where you live. The world is wide. There's so many opportunities. I can tell you that when I was 24, I started working at my dream salon. I was a hairstylist when I was living in Chicago, and I got hired at my dream salon. And I wanted to work there 5 years before I went to beauty school. That was the dream for me. But then I only ended up working there for 8 months because I got let go after 8 months. But it was so worth it and it was so fulfilling to me that I felt like I was able to move on to another venture or another dream of mine. If you work a job that you enjoy, enjoy all of it, I say. Enjoy the good, enjoy the bad, the late nights, the early nights, because we're creative humans and we always have dreams and ideas. And it's so important to be able to use your past experiences as stepping stones to take you to your next dream or to take you to your next goal. So I always love to look at it that way as well.
Yeah, congrats for getting that role and being able to experience it, because you'll never wonder what it would have been like.
Exactly. So how can a person take their career, experience it, and use it to launch a business?
Well, it's like what we talked about, like really looking at your experience and your skills. And
Mhm.
then what I always say is look at when you have that list of skills in front of you, what do you want to do
Mm.
in that next role? And what don't you want to do? Because as you're making that second act leap, you can be choosy and you can say, you know what, I might really be good at numbers, but I don't want to work in numbers anymore. So you can look at your list of skills and really circle everything that you want to take with you. And then, look at the options of your businesses that you're thinking about and kind of pull that thread through. See what goes from what you've already accomplished and already done and already know how to do. And how do those apply to this business? And I think it's important. I always advise my clients to come up with that kind of career story. So as you're thinking about, what you're bringing with you, how are you selling yourself as that business owner to be the perfect business owner for that business? And are you like for me, just to give an example for Second Act Success, my coaching business, it's a whole play on TV, Second Act, so it pulls it in and I'm able to craft this story about why I can help women, change their careers. So if you're thinking about going from, say, working in a salon to becoming a travel agent, just as an example, think of all of your skills talking to people, coming up with this vision of what the hairstyle will look like, etc., and how that pulls over with coming up with a vision for booking travel and have communicating with your clients. And you can come up with this story where you're really bringing all of your skills and your experience into that next venture. And again, it like helps your potential clients and customers know who you are. And it gives you that confidence to say, yeah, I've already done this. And now I'm going to do it again in an even better way with this next business that I'm building.
That's beautifully said. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. You also mentioned that you have a podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And is it a solo podcast? Do you bring on guests?
Yeah, so it's called Second Act Success Career Podcast. I launched it at the same time I launched my coaching business, and I really wanted to share other women's transition stories. So listeners can listen and say, oh, if she went from being a teacher to a real estate agent, I can do it too. And so there's lots of examples. I think I'm up to, gosh, episode 191. So it's been a lot of stories of women who have made a transition. And then some solo episodes peppered in there, just giving different advice and things that I have going on. But I love still interviewing women who have made that transition. And you'll be on my podcast, I believe. I invited you, so I'm not sure if you got a time on the schedule, but I'd love to have you on too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so cool because all it takes is one person to step outside of their comfort zone to show others that they can do it too. All it takes is one person or one step. It's like when you want to go to the gym, you might not want to go in the moment, but the second you step your foot in there, you see other people who are already there doing the work. So it motivates you. And I love that your podcast talks about that because it can be kind of a taboo topic sometimes, talking about changing careers. I was having this conversation with a former roommate of mine, and she was in law school and she's a full-time lawyer now. I remember one day she was telling me, she's like, yeah, I'd love to have a smoothie stand one of these days and just do that. And I'm like, why don't you? And she's like, I'm a lawyer. And it's okay, like give her some time, but we all have some kind of dreams, whether it's a smoothie stand or being a writer or solo traveling the world and making content on that. We all have dreams that we deserve to live them.
1,000%. I love that. And I think in this day and age that we live too, you can have a quote unquote stable, successful job like a lawyer, but nothing is super stable anymore. So it's great to kind of think about that side business and open that up and kind of hold that as your power on the side, if you will. You can be a doctor, but also be a writer on the side or whatever it is to kind of give yourself, your brain kind of both avenues, like creative and then practical.
Yeah, what's so interesting is like I think a lot of times when we see people on social media who are popular influencers, we think that's what they do, but or they didn't have a serious career before that, but they actually did. There's this one guy that I've been watching on Instagram, and he does a lot of motivational speaking and a lot of quotes. And then one day he was putting out a bio about himself, and he said, during the day, I'm a construction worker, and that at night, I write and I make content on Instagram. And I had no idea. So I think that's also a really great example of you can have two jobs. You can still live out your dreams while working a more serious job while you're figuring it out.
Oh, yeah, and that's kind of fun, like, to have that creative outlet if that's what you're looking for. I was running a year and a half ago, both of my businesses with 2 little boys, and I decided that I wanted to write a book, and I just used that
Yeah.
time that I would try to write, and it became a hobby of mine, like, that was what I enjoyed doing, and it was just so fun. I wasn't thinking about the money I'd make from the book or having the book even be out in the world. I just wanted to sit and have 30 minutes to write and have just my thoughts get onto paper. Ever it is that you want to do, you can find that little bit of time to devote to it. You deserve it.
Exactly. You deserve to live your best life. Well, tell us about your book and tell us about your writing.
Yeah. So I wanted to originally write fiction. That was like another dream of mine. But I was like, you know what? Let me write about what I teach. And so my book is called Start Your Second Act, and it comes out May 7th. And it really is my transition story in my career, other stories of my clients and people who have been on my podcast, and then what I teach with my clients and kind of my strategy of really going from where you are to where you want to be. So I'm hoping it'll be a tool for other women to get inspired and be able to take those little action steps to move towards where they want to be.
And I love how you tied in your previous career with what you do now, because you always tie it back to acts, like you would say, like in TV production, start your second act. It's the perfect title. I love it.
Thank you so much. I'm excited.
So before we go ahead and wrap things up, is there any last piece of advice that you'd love to share with the audience or anybody who's listening?
I think just give yourself grace. It's a big decision to think about any kind of transition or pivot,
Mhm.
but give yourself grace to at least allow yourself to think about it and just daydream about what it is that you'd like to do. And the more you think about it and research it, you'll realize it's not as far away as it may seem. And then it really can be this tangible next goal for you to go after. But you deserve it. And we're all worthy of, like we said, living that life, producing our best life, and not having regrets at the end of the day.
Shannon, what does it mean for you to be nourished inside out?
Feeling that fulfillment as much as possible in the day to day, to not feel like I'm waking up in a situation that I don't want to be, and kind of
Mm.
living your best life and taking care of myself, having that self care, but also being able to share it with, my clients and my family and friends, and just feeling like I'm bringing some good into the world, maybe.
Love that. And please tell us, where can people find you, support you, and get your new book as well?
Thank you. Yeah, you can go to secondactsuccess.co. And my book is there and how to work with me. And there's lots of free resources about career change as well.
Amazing. I'll have all of that linked down in the show notes below so people can stay in touch. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and doing this work with me. If today's conversation lit a fire in you, then you do not want to miss the Nourished Inside Out Live Virtual Summit happening on May 24th and May 25th. This isn't just another event, it's 2 days of real talk, soul deep healing, and powerful tools to help you nourish your mind, body, and spirit from the inside out. We're bringing together incredible speakers, heartfelt sessions, and a community that's walking the same path you are. Spots are limited, so head to the show notes below and grab your spot now. Let's grow, rise, and get nourished together. Until next time, keep choosing you.